In today's video, we're going to look at the number one most important thing to get right in your English pronunciation. But before we do, I've got a small favor to ask you. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you get a notification every time I make a new video. And you can subscribe by clicking the button here. Okay, so what is the number one most important thing to get right in English pronunciation? It's word stress. This is where we make one syllable more important and louder in a word. So for example, we say teacher, not teacher or teacher, but teacher. And the first syllable, teach, is the stressed syllable. So why is word stress so important? Well, if you get a sound of the word wrong, it's quite likely I can still understand you. So say, for example, instead of teacher, you say teacher. Now, I'll probably understand you because I'll understand the concept. If you say Claire is an English teacher, I understand you mean teacher. But if you get the word stress wrong, it's more difficult for me to understand you. So if you say she's a teacher, I'm like, she's a what? So there are a couple of things you need to know about word stress. The first thing is that the word stress of a word never changes. So we always say teacher. We never say teacher, for example. And it doesn't matter where the word appears in a sentence. The word stress of a word is always the same. But the word stress of a word can change depending on the class or type of word. So, for example, photograph. So the stress in photograph is on the first syllable pho, and photograph is a noun. But for photographer or photography, so photographer is the person, photography is the subject, the stress is now on the second syllable on the toe, photography, photographer. For an adjective, so photographic, the stress is now on the third syllable. So you can see that depending on what type of word it is, the word stress can be different. And the second thing to remember about word stress is that you don't need to worry about it for one syllable words. So we say good, go, bad. But for multi-syllable words, one syllable will be stressed and the other syllables will be unstressed. So take a word like information, which is information, 4 syllables. The stress is on the may, information, and the in, the for, and the shun are much smaller, weaker sounds. So, how do you get word stress right? There are 3 steps, and the first one is to recognize it when you hear it. So, in our example words, teacher and information, the stressed syllables teach and may are louder and longer than the other syllables, teacher, information. If you're not sure about the word stress, of course you can look in a dictionary, and most dictionaries will show you the apostrophe sign before the stressed syllable. Now, as I said before, you don't need to worry about the stress on one syllable words, but when you have multi-syllable words, one of the syllables will be stressed, and get used to listening for these stressed syllables when you hear spoken English. Don't stress out about listening and understanding every single syllable, because in spoken English, as I said, the unstressed syllables are often much quicker and they're very small, weak sounds. Often they're the sounds. So just concentrate on listening for the stressed syllables. Look for patterns. There are some rules about word stress, whether, for example, you put the stress on the first, second, third, or final syllable. But the problem with these rules is that there's often lots of exceptions. However, there are a few easy to remember patterns that will help you, and here they are. Words ending with e, ease and oon. With words ending in e, ease and oon, the stress is on the final syllable, so agree, disagree, guarantee, employee. And then for ease, Chinese, Japanese, legalese. And here are some examples with oon, cartoon, afternoon. Words ending in shun or ik. With words ending in shun or ik, the stress is on the penultimate syllable. This means the second to last. So for example, information, speculation, television, photographic. Two-syllable nouns and adjectives. With most, but not all, two-syllable nouns and adjectives, the stress is on the first syllable. So for example, simple, easy, flower. And this is also the same for compound nouns. Compound nouns are nouns made of two nouns. So for example, deck chair, seat belt, cool box. Two-syllable verbs. For most two-syllable verbs, the stress is on the second and final syllable. For example, believe, surround, admire. Nouns and verbs with the same form. When you have nouns and verbs with the same form, nouns usually have the stress on the first syllable, and verbs usually have the stress on the second syllable. So, for example, an import, the noun, to import, the verb. By the way, if you want to know the correct pronunciation of more than 30 common nouns and verbs, check out the link to my page here. So when you speak English, try to get the word stress right. It will make you sound more natural. So I'll give you an example. Claire is an English teacher. You sound like a robot. But if you put the correct word stress in, then you'll sound more natural. Claire is an English teacher. Now I understand that word stress can be difficult, especially if you don't have it in your own language. But if you keep listening, repeating and practicing, you will become more fluent, you will sound more like a native speaker, I promise. So here are some final tips for you. The first one, be careful about the words that cause you problems. Now, of course, everyone is different, but there are two words which seem to cause the most problems for word stress. The first one is develop, not develop, but develop with the stress on the second syllable. With develop, all the other classes of words have the same stress. So develop, developer, development. The other word that seems to cause a lot of problems is manage, with the stress on the first syllable. So it's not manage, but manage. And again, this word has the same stress and it doesn't matter about the class of words. So we say manage, manager, management. The second tip I have for you is to make a note of the stress when you learn the new word. And you can do this by putting an apostrophe before the stress syllable or by writing the stress syllable in capital letters. And the final tip I have for you is to practice the word before you need it. So for example, remember with engineer, the stress is on the final syllable, engineer. And don't forget the words that come after. So if you're giving a presentation and you want to say he's an engineer in a company, make sure that you also practice what happens after the word engineer. Often we get so worried about a particular word that we then make a mistake with the words that come afterwards. So thanks for watching. Don't forget you can also subscribe to my channel. You can watch another video or you can leave a comment. Bye!